Hey guys, it's Junior. Welcome back to my channel here at Horsepower Warehouse. It's been a little while since I made some content for you guys, so as you can imagine, I've got some pretty cool stuff to show you. Let's dive right into it with this 1967 that we have wrapped up. So this one was brought to us for pretty much a chassis restoration. So body off, we found that the chassis had some issues. So as per when we have really bad issues with the frames on these cars, we will call up our friends at Vet Products of Michigan, locate a brand new OEM spec replacement chassis, have it all powder coated with all the suspension stuff, like we do our normal complete frame off restorations, and it comes out fantastic. We've done this many times over, and I'm really happy with standing behind Vet Products of Michigan chassis, so that's why we opted to go with it in this car. I mean, that's what I would put in my own stuff, so that's what we ended up with here. The bottom of the car, as you can imagine, came out pretty dang nice. Whenever we do a body off on these, I like to strip the complete body, the bottom of it, the undercarriage. I do all the wheel wells and, of course, address any issues. First and foremost, that's my major thing is, I look for any fiberglass damage or anything that might have happened over the years and try to, address anything that I can see while the frame is out of my way. So we took the opportunity in this car to strip everything down engine bay. It came out nice. This is a Steve Keach built engine, so you never know what lies underneath those valve covers. It could be anything from a stock flat tappet all the way up to a full roller hydraulic with roller rockers and everything from there. Yeah, this one, it's got goodies in it. I'm not going to ruin the surprise because I don't know what the owner's going to tell people, but nonetheless, it's a factory looking piece that came out really nice. What do you guys think about the luggage rack on the back of these, especially the 67 convertible? I am not initially a fan, but I think on this car in particular, man, it looks all right. It's not bad enough to where I would pull it off and fill all the holes and have the whole rear of the car essentially repainted to blend and match. So let me know what you guys think about the luggage racks on these cars. This is a side pipe, 4-speed, saddle interior, really nice car. We of course did the vintage air on this one, so we painted the radio access panels, and I modify the vintage air installation a little bit to make things a little bit neater and tighter and to my specific qualifications. But the new Gen 5 kit is actually a lot more user-friendly to install. So yeah, this one runs fantastic. We did a complete rebuild on the Muncie transmission. We found a plethora of issues in that transmission. In fact, I have the transmission case over here. I'll just run you guys over and show you. This is the box of stuff that's going back to the owner of that car. So the case, unfortunately, let's pull her out for you guys. We found a whole bunch of JB Weld on the inside of it. Beyond that, I don't know if you guys can see that magnet, but it is full of metal. The gears were just absolutely destroyed within this transmission. So I sourced the correct case, which was a little bit of an endeavor to do. Sometimes it is when you're trying to match date stampings. But we did get the correct case for this car and did a full rebuild. I do all of my rebuilds in-house because I'm very specific about the components that go within our transmissions. In fact, there are really only 2 rebuild kits that I trust. So you have old Paulie C, I think it's Paul Caglione. I'm sorry if I butchered his last name. I think it's 5speeds.com is his website. And then there's the gearbox.org is another source of quality rebuild kits for my Muncies. Those are the only two places that I'll really source my stuff. And beyond that, I will warn you that you can find rebuild kits for Muncies all over the place. eBay is just absolutely laden with them that are half the cost and a quarter of the quality of what I use. So heed that warning. Also, same thing with gears. If your gears are not from these people at Auto Gear, and you'll see that these are made in Italy, I don't trust the gear set to go in my transmissions, and I don't feel that you should trust them either. But man, this thing is just a killer. Look at with the white Stinger, fantastic look. I'm super proud of how it came out. It's definitely a looker, and just in time for Christmas. So hopefully, you know, this guy will be happy. It's going to alignment and then final shakedown, and she's done. Moving on, we have a 63 here. As you can see, this one has some slight modifications going on. So it's back from paint. The last time I showed this one to you guys, this one was actually off getting painted. So as you can see, it was previously more of a Corvette shark gray, and now it is more of a winter gray metallic. It is a darker color. Ultimately, this customer is going to go with a PPF wrap in matte or satin. So it's not going to stay shiny like it is, and it's actually going to make it a little bit darker once we wrap it. But yeah, this car is actually coming out fantastic. I really like how the color came out. You can see the interior has all of the wiring. We're wiring modules, and we custom do all of our wiring here because we're very, very specific about being tidy and making sure things land where we want them. There are no complications within the circuits, and you can see we have a very specific way about going about our wiring. This is a street shop chassis with an LS7. So this was actually a project, guys, and I'll note that we took it on probably halfway. I did not spec out this chassis. So you might wonder things like, you know, you'll see the drive shaft and that one's got a carbon shaft over there. Why do these differ? And things like the brakes. That one has Willwood 6 pistons with multi-piece rotors, and this one is a OEM single piece rotor with, you know, Corvette C7 brakes, I believe, on this one. So usually when I'm spending money on something, I look at the cost difference between, you know, this and the next step up, and then I always present that to my customers. Most of the time, you'd be surprised that the jump from something like this to something like that is not a huge amount in comparison to the overall cost of the part. Same thing with like the drive shaft. If I have to have, and this is a custom made drive shaft, if I have to have this one made, how much more do I have to spend to get something like that? I mean, so I like to present options to my customers. I'm not spending your money for you. I just know what I would like to have in my own garage, and I know that we're not all working on unlimited budgets here, but you know, that's what I think a thoughtful builder will do, is walk their customer through the different options and kind of, you know, I want you to end up with your dream car in your garage, and I want you to be happy at the end of the day. So this LS7 is coming together. We did color match to the car, the transmission, the engine, all of the front runner. This one does have a factory front runner on it that we just grayed out basically. It's coming out nice. It's coming out real nice. So I'm happy with it. All the hard pipes are done. We've got the reservoir mounted. The intake is, you know, we're getting there. Of course, it's going to be all the welds ground, and it's going to be color matched, if not Cerakoted. So we're getting there. All stainless button head hardware in the grille. Everywhere you look, every piece of hardware on this car should be stainless, and ideally button head with a stainless flat washer behind it. You can see we have a gear set going here. I stand behind Yukon. They make the good stuff. We also do a lot of motive gears. So if you were to task me with rebuilding your rear differential, that's probably what I would choose. Now, I'll put whatever you want in your car as long as it's quality and it's not going to fight me on the install. I don't like using junk, and you shouldn't honestly either on a car like this. These are dream cars, guys. We should really respect, you know, what we're doing here with installation of cheap parts on expensive cars. It's just kind of backwards sometimes. I never do it. As you can see in front of you, I mean, we take so much pride in making sure things are done, you know, top. This is a powder coated chassis by Applied Coating Technologies here in town. They're the factory powder coater for yellowfin, and they knock it out of the park for me each and every single time that I give them a chassis. We of course blew apart all of the suspension components. Everything is done in this satin silver. We chose to not go with a high gloss silver because we didn't want everything to be glossy and it just be too much. We wanted to do gloss on all of the engine and, you know, auxiliary components, anything that was going to be blue. And then we have satin brushed finish for all of the aluminum. You can see that the CVF front runner here came with a chrome alternator and AC compressor. We are going to make sure that those are brushed satin. The rest of the front runner is all brushed satin billet, so it looks really, really nice. It's actually anodized over the brush, so we are going to recreate that same on those components as well. Art Morrison chassis, by the way. So, Street Shop, Art Morrison. This one is just a stunner. I personally don't like the red brakes on an otherwise, this is going to be a silver blue exterior car. So, I mean, ultimately it's not my decision, but I kind of coaxed the owner into doing the color matched calipers. So we're going to make sure that those are color matched as well. And then we'll put the Willwood back on it. So yeah, I'm excited. The body is off at paint right now. We make our own body carts in-house. That way it supports the car in the same way that GM supported them when they were on rail cars, when the bodies were shipped from A.O. Smith. So that's coming out really, really great. I'm proud of it. On my cart here, I have a couple examples of some stuff I wanted to talk about. If your trip doesn't work, it's probably because of these behind your speedometer head. The new ones are metal, and that's what I install every single time. So if your trip doesn't work, this is the first place that I look. I've replaced no less than several dozen sets of these that are stripped out. If your headlights are not working properly, it's probably because, or 80% chance, because your limit switches are not functioning properly, and it made the gears look something like this. Now, these are a left and right set out of a car, and you can see kind of how gnarly it gets into those gears. So I always make sure on my C2 Corvettes that the limit switches are plugged in, because I find like on a lot of the consignment cars or cars that I get in for restoration, dang near every time the limit switches are unplugged. So that's the first place I check. And then of course when the headlights inevitably bind or are rolling up kind of nasty, I always look at those gears first. When you're buying parts, scrutinize everything all the way through. I buy all of my calipers for my cars from Lone Star Caliper Co. I feel like they are the best in the business. They're here in America, but they're based out of Texas, Lone Star. They do the stainless lined O-ring or stainless lined lip seal. They will also do a Delco core with the stainless as well. So, and I very, very rarely have an issue with the calipers that I get from Lone Star Caliper Co. That's why I trust them again and again. And side note, I have had issues with, gosh dang, almost everyone else, except for, Brumbo or Willwood or, but as far as the C2 rebuilt calipers go, man, it's kind of slim pickings for really quality calipers. So I bought a caliper set from them, and it came loaded with these pads. Okay, these are not usually what I use in my cars anyhow, but upon taking them out, I noticed I don't know if you guys can see the amount of movement, and it's not the only one in this set of 4 calipers. I'm sure you could see that movement as well. Holy cow, guys. Can you imagine if I just installed this directly as I receive them? I mean, golly, I'm talking about people's dream cars here, and we're getting parts like this. So this is what I install on every car that we get through here. The Wagners, I've never had an issue. There's the part number. Scrutinize your stuff. Scrutinize it all the way through. And just another side note, I have a 63 here. It is on the rotisserie. You'll notice that it is at a lack of having a chassis and all the parts around it because it is a powder coat. That car, the gentleman was super nice guy. He actually provided me with a new chassis from Vet Products of Michigan. He lives in Michigan, so he went and scooped one up for me. But he got me a new Kaufman radiator support as part of my parts list of my wish list. This radiator support, I'm looking at it and it's bubbling down at the bottom. And the powder coat didn't match anyhow, so I was gonna redo it either way because I'm super anal about things like that, about finishes. But I found it was bubbling. And this is a brand new radiator support. I pulled it out of the Kaufman box and pulled the Made in USA sticker, the Ohio. I was born in Ohio, so I'm super proud that they're there, but golly, the powder coat failed right out of the box on a $700 or so Kaufman radiator support. So again, just critique every single part that you get on these cars. Don't take for granted when it says it's powder coated that it's a quality job. You know, if you demand quality all the way through, then just fine tooth every single thing that you get. And that's what I've done pretty much the entire length of our business here. Let's not skip this one. So here is a car that was brought to me, 64 with a split window added in it. This is a resto mod-ish, a hot rod-ish kind of build. So he's building it how he wants it, right? So black bumpers, black trim, black wheels, obviously. He's got a 64 coupe that he put a split window in. Here's all of the parts. He was one of the few people to actually bring me, gosh dang, 95% of the parts. I'm thankful that we have so much here. Because I, don't have a whole lot of thinking to do. I just have more installing to do, and that's a-okay with me. I, of course, can't warranty parts that you bring me because I don't know where they came from or anything of that effect, but nonetheless, if that doesn't bother the customer, then that certainly does not bother me. I don't mind using your stuff. At the end of the day, our focus and our objective is the same. I just want to build your dream car and it be a quality thing that at the end of the day you can drive and be happy with. So this one is coming back apart. We are the 3rd shop, I believe, to work on this car. So 2 shops before us kind of failed at getting it in his garage and looking like that. And so, I haven't failed yet. So I'm happy to take on projects. I don't care where they came from. It is just a puzzle to me at the end of the day. I look at it as an object that I have to do an investigation on, and sometimes I got to work backwards in order to work forwards. That is definitely the case with this car. Body's got to come back off, and there's a bunch of stuff that they did kind of hokey pokey. But I'm looking to spend as little labor dollars as possible going backwards and try to get this thing built going forward. So that is the objective with this one. You'll see the GTO sitting here. That is the one that is the recipient of the Yukon axle package. Here up on the lift, we have one fresh from soda blasting, still on our body cart. And you can see that we don't have the outriggers on it right now because we're working on the fiberglass, or at least we're intending on starting it. But this cart has outriggers that go to the front and rear body mount pads as well. The chassis on this car is unfortunately not in as good a shape as I was hoping. Usually on these chassis, the first place to rust out is these end caps, or in my experience. I mean, I've seen probably gosh, dozens and dozens and dozens of cars where the end cap is rotted out. And I've replaced these end caps a whole bunch and not had any issues. So if this in itself, it has, you know, it's rotted out, that is not an indicator that you definitely need a new frame. Once you pull this out and you start seeing holes in the adjacent metal and holes in the bottom and the holes just keep going, that is a good indicator that you need to probably take a second look at the chassis. So what I like to do is run a bore scope in all the holes and see if I can't find piles of this. If I find piles of this laying in the chassis, then that's a good indicator to me, okay, we've got an issue. Because I can patch, but I can't add metal to the entire structure without just replacing it. And I can individually fix each area in this chassis, but once you start looking at the cost of the parts and then the labor to actually do so, it becomes kind of a wash. And then ultimately you still have a 1960s piece of metal under your car that you know has been compromised. So that's kind of what pushes me to suggesting for a lot of my customers going to a new chassis once they've been compromised to this extent. As a courtesy to my customers, and I care less about making money and more about making a fantastic product because I want to do this the rest of my working career, I don't upcharge on my chassis. In fact, I don't care if you, like this guy, buy your own chassis. Bring it to me. As long as it comes from Vet Products of Michigan, I'm A-okay. Don't even tell them that it's going to Horsepower Warehouse. I don't care. I don't get a commission. I just want to build on a quality piece from the get-go. So, I mean, that's probably why I'm peddling so many of these Vet Products of Michigan chassis, because honestly, I want to build on a quality product from the get-go. And it's worth, to me, you know, the $9,000 that they charge for a chassis. I think it's somewhere in the $9,000 range. It's definitely worth considering. And take a heavy look at what you got. We have another chassis over here from a customer. We're not doing the build, we're just doing kind of a repair on the chassis, and we're building this into a roller. Here's another thing you guys want to look at. You'll see we have a new cross member for the rear here. This is where the brackets bolt for the rear bumpers. You see how this one is nice and flat and parallel to the ground? Well, ooh, yeah, this is yeah, so when these cars get bumped and the bumper, it transfers all the load directly to this cross member. This thing, it gets bent really, really easy. So if you have any rear fiberglass damage in the car around where the bumper mounts, I always suggest looking at this cross member really closely as well. So we've got, of course, the new one here. This is a really, really hard epoxy gloss coating. So we're gonna, of course, match all that and get this chassis built as a roller for the customer so that they can get it home and finish the build. Another one that came from Soda Blast. You'll notice that these cars have some gray panels and some blonde panels, or white panels, whatever you want to call them. I've heard the term blonde and it's stuck in my head since I started building these cars. The reason that I media blast first and foremost, or soda blast, is to expose damage like this and things like this and this, and I mean, it just goes on and on. This exposes and tells me the real tale of, okay, I need to really scrutinize this area because it's been damaged or filled or anything of that nature. Anything with filler needs to be exposed to me because I want to address that from the very start. So we do all of our fiberglass repairs with fiberglass. We do an epoxy primer on top of it to lock everything in, and then we'll do something like a polyester filler, a high build filler primer so that way we can block sand the entire car. I mean, hundreds of hours of blocking the car out and getting things aligned with the doors. I think on average they have 350 or so hours on a car that requires, you know, more than your average amount of work. So that's why it takes 3 months for us to get a paint job done. It's not because they're not working on our cars. Going back to the gray and the blonde, you'll notice that this piece, that square, is not factory. And I'll show you on the other side how it should look. Should look a little something like that. Should have one contiguous piece all the way through. This is one piece coming all the way to there. Got your center, another piece there. So 63, it is common to have both blonde and gray from the factory. This car was not hit, nor was this one. Well, this one was, but nonetheless, it's not because of the gray glass. Now, if you see black glass on your split window, that is a replacement panel. And it's a little tricky finding, you know, because I've heard reports that you can find white panels all the way up until 67, but at a point, I think in 65, they went from light gray to dark gray, so it doesn't go the other way backwards. You'll have to read the guys argue on Corvette forums about that. It's an interesting topic, the color of fiberglass on these cars. But nonetheless, this car was for all intents and purposes, it looks to me like a complete original car. The light gray is not an indicator to me that this isn't a factory built body. This one, you can see all the filler. So that's where we stop with the media, because the last thing I want to do is just keep hammering it with media until we're seeing daylight on the other side. So whenever we see a large amount of filler, okay, we stop. We know that it's not good glass in that area, and we will hand strip the rest of it down. That's the most proper way to do it. It's the more careful approach, but that's always the way that I like to do it on these cars, because by golly, they're dream cars, they're expensive, and I want to do things right, even if it takes a little bit longer. Anyhow, I have a ton more content to share with you guys. As you can imagine, this is just the very beginning, but I had to get you guys in here and show you what we've been poking at lately. I hope you guys have been doing all right for the last few months. We've had everything from, you know, dogs passing away to, you know, all sorts of stuff that kind of bummed me out, and I got off the horse, but I'm back on it with the YouTube. So I thank you guys so much for joining me, and until next time, take care.